Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to this IAS lecture. So I have the honor today to introduce Professor Monica Lam. Professor Lam graduated from Carnegie Mellon University, and then she joined Stanford and has been there since then. And other than being a faculty member, Professor Lam is actually very interested in disruptive startups. But before she actually ventured into the commercial world, she has been well recognized for her academic contributions on computer architecture, high-performance computing, compiler optimizations, and she has got the NSF Young Investigator Award, the ACM Most Influential Programming Language Design Implementation Paper Award. She is also a fellow of ACM, and there are many other awards too. She was the founding CEO of two startups, the most recent one being the MobiSocial, which is actually related to her talk today. So let's welcome Professor Lam.
All right, can you hear me? 你識講廣東話？我第一次可以係一個 audience，我可以講廣東話。But I understand. I just want to say hello. I'm from Hong Kong. I went to school here, Maryknoll Sister School way back then. It is now called Marymount. At any rate, I'm glad to be back here. And thank you very much for letting me speak to this audience. I'm very excited about talking to you guys and finding out from you what you think about this topic. So this work started in 2008. That was just right when the iPhones got introduced. And we know that this is going to be a really important computer revolution. You know, with mobile devices, we're talking about every person on Earth carrying a device with them, carrying a computer with them all the time. So we wrote to the government and we said that, look, when the PCs first got introduced, like 20 years ago, before long, you know, within a few years, we have the Wintel monopoly, Windows plus Intel. And we know that this is a huge round, and we are just, again, concerned about the monopolies that get created. You know, with the Wintel monopoly, people are using x86, and we're teaching RISC in universities. They're using Windows, and we're teaching Linux. So what is going to happen next? When the PCs got introduced, I was a student. I didn't really have much say. But now this is happening, and I'm a professor. I get to do some research. So that's why we wrote to the government and asked them to put money in university research and let the universities have a chance to create a programmable open internet as opposed to a proprietary internet. And so they did. They gave us $10 million. It is a pretty large grant for 5 years. And so we started in 2008, and we figured that and we realized that the problem is very, very deep. It is no longer about the processor or operating system monopoly. What we are facing here is what I would call a billion people privacy problem. What is that? What's a billion people privacy problem? Any guesses? No? How about Facebook? Okay, so what we have today is that in order for you to share data with your friends, you have to give up your data and sign up with Facebook because that's the easiest way for people to share. How many people here are on Facebook? Not on Facebook. Maybe that's easier. Okay, for those of you who are on Facebook, how many people here have read the EULA, the End User License Agreement? You know what it says? They said that they have the right to do whatever they want with their data. They can use your data to sell products, not just to you, but to other people. And the best part is that they can also change this end user license agreement anytime. So it doesn't really matter whether you read it or not, because they are pretty free to change it to whatever they want. And I think that as a computer scientist, it's a big embarrassment. All right? I mean, we've spent all these years working on distributed systems. And we have now, we end up using the most simplistic architecture. Okay? You want to share? Give the data to this one company, and the company decides to give out the data to whomever they want according to their rules. You know, if you want to guarantee that your friend sees the data you put up, you can pay them, and they will guarantee that they will do that for you. What kind of a world is this, right? What happened to all the distributed systems? So that's the social network. All right, that's the, you know, Facebook was one of the first ones, and they have provided a great service, and I think that they deserve to, you know, to be a big company in some sense. But what was scary to me is not just the Facebook part, but the Facebook Connect. It's their app platform. If you want to write a social app today, the easiest thing is to tap into the Facebook social graph, and you get all the people's friends, but at the same time, you know, I mean, what you get is that it can spread virally across the Facebook users. But what do you give up? And this, you know, what you have to do is to pay them. So for example, Zynga with Farmville, they started making money, and Facebook called them up, and they said, for the privilege of using this Facebook graph, you have to give us 30% of your revenues. Do you know what 30% of revenues means? It turns out at that time it was 90% of their profit. Okay, so there's a difference between revenues and profit. And does it mean that Zynga is working for Facebook? Okay, what if Facebook turns around and says, I don't want 30%, I want 50%? Can they do that? Is that fair? Who's going to say whether it is fair or not fair? Especially if you have a monopoly. So, you know, I'm not saying Facebook has a monopoly yet, but they have over 1 billion people in their network. It is pretty worrisome. The second part is that, you know, with the app platform, you know, those like buttons? Every web page has a like button. Stanford has a like button from Facebook. Anybody that likes something on Facebook, Facebook hears about it too. So they're collecting all the activities of everybody on web pages that they don't own just by virtue of that Facebook like button. Okay, so they're collecting a lot of people's data. And in the meantime, while this is going on, the third thing that is worrisome is the messaging platform. On the mobile devices, people spend a lot of time on messaging, and messaging is becoming another social platform. And in February, Facebook just bought WhatsApp for just $19 billion. And a lot of people started to ask, it's like, why is this worth $19 billion? Because of this whole combination of personal data, privacy, and the two combination gives you this concept of Big Brother from, you know, George Orwell, because they're now collecting a lot of data, and it belongs to a single company. So this is I think this is worrisome. How many people here think that it's worrisome? Just want to, aha, okay. You created Facebook?
Yeah, I created.
Okay.
I didn't work for Facebook.
You don't work for Facebook.
I suicide my account.
All right, maybe we need more people like you. At any rate, so this is an issue. I think that when Facebook bought WhatsApp, over one weekend, 8 million people downloaded an app called Telegram, because they are saying that I don't really want Facebook to also own messaging. And Telegram is a more secure messaging platform from Russia. I mean, but it's over a weekend, 8 million people responded. Right? So at least there are some people who worry about it. But this problem is very deep because they have a lot of people on the network. And I think that the only chance we have here is to take advantage of the new revolution, the mobile revolution. Every time you have a paradigm shift in computing, you have a chance to do something different. And you have to improve upon the last version, you know, last round of social networks. And the way to do it is to take advantage of what you can do on mobile, something that cannot be done previously on PCs, where you know, that's what Facebook was created for. So what's the difference? The difference is that the address book is very, very important. There are lots of people on Facebook, but they are not necessarily my friends. I don't get access to them. Just think about it. At Stanford, I would say 99.99% of all the students are on Facebook, but they're not my Facebook friends. However, because we are members of the same community, I have the email address of every single student, staff of the entire campus. I have access to 50,000 names that I care much more about than all the people on, than there's so many people on Facebook. So in other words, I can contact these people based on the email address that is available to me without making friends with them according to Facebook. Why? Because we are already friends. Why do I need to make friends with the same people, with a subset of these people, with all this extra work with using Facebook? As a matter of fact, if you look at the phone, it has everybody on it. All your friends from Facebook is accessible through Facebook Connect. Google Plus, LinkedIn, all the phone numbers, email, schools, employers, commerce, businesses, even people you meet. This is what I'm going to do. Is that everybody here is accessible through your mobile device, and this device belongs to you, and therefore you are not adopting another evil just so that you can replace Facebook. Okay, so we have to take advantage of this device, of your mobile device. So this is how we built social networks up to this point. We have these very, very powerful computers, and what we do is that we treat them like they are little thin clients. And I don't know why. Where are my phones? I don't know why, because they are obviously much more powerful than whatever Facebook or Google can devote to you individually. Instead of being just little slaves to this server model, we can adopt a very different architecture. So here is what we have figured out after 4 years of research. What we realize is that the phones can connect with each other if we do the right infrastructure. The problem lies in the fact that today, these phones route data based on TCP/IP addresses. Okay, I don't know my TCP/IP address. How am I supposed to know yours? And they change anyway and all the time. What we need to do is to have the phones be able to talk to each other based on the people's identities. That means the phone numbers, the Facebook IDs, your email addresses at school, at Yahoo, Google, and what have you. As long as I know your identity, I should be able to connect with you using this messaging system. The most important thing about this messaging system is that it cannot take data. It cannot read data and monetize data. As long as it is a proprietary network, people have to build their own. You will have many, many competing networks to connect these phones together. So what we are proposing is very simple. It's a universal group identity-based messaging system that connects the phones together and this messaging platform does not read or monetize users' data. And if you have such a universal system, then everything can be built around it. Today, I have this phone, I have a phone number. As long as you know my phone number, you can call me. You don't have to join my network in order to call. So why do we have to use that model? The phones are very powerful as long as they're connected. So what we propose here is that you have a messaging system that connects the phones. So it doesn't mean that the phones are connected directly with each other because the phones are sometimes offline. So the way we implement it is that you have to have servers as part of this infrastructure, but it is a store and forward infrastructure. When I send a message to 3 other phones, the message goes to the server. The server holds it temporarily until the data are delivered, and we keep the data for 2 weeks total, max. And then it just distributes the data. So when you sign up with the app, sign up onto this system, you give it your identity. It verifies that you have that identity. And when a message is sent to that particular identity, the server notifies your device. Your device comes back and fetches the data. And that's it. That's a very simple architecture, very easily distributable. The next thing we did is that instead of just having these a chat program and so forth, we have made this messaging protocol available to apps. So for example, you can write a little Scrabble program that runs on these phones directly, okay? How would you build a Scrabble program today? What you have to do today is to build a Scrabble server and have all the phones connect to this server. Why? I mean, a Scrabble game, you're just playing, I'm playing the word hello on row 4, column 5. Why do I need to have a server? So what we have created is a way for people to build these peer-based multi-party apps directly on the phones. So now you can scale easily, and any kid can write that app without worrying about writing server code or finding a way to host the servers. The reason is that we have factored out all the common server pieces and make it available as the infrastructure. And so now you have peer-based multi-party HTML5 interactions. Okay? So for example, today, if you have a browser, it's server client, right? You talk to some server. Now this is a peer-based social browsing. Just like how the browser just changes the web, changes computing for every person on Earth, this can potentially change what it means to be interacting with your friends using phones. So that's the second part, is that we have an app platform. And on top of that, of course, you do worry about the fact that you may lose your phone sometime, or you might want to pick up a second device. So we really need the data to be hosted in the cloud. And our solution is that we let each person decide where they want to host the data. We have made it available as a connection to Box, Dropbox, Flickr, as well as Baidu Cloud. It is an open API. You can stick whichever cloud service to it. You can even build your own home server, and you can keep the data at home and interact with people using this open system. So for example, if I want to share a video with you, I would take the video. The video is actually saved in my Dropbox account. When I share the video, it looks like I'm just sharing a video with you, but in reality, the system sends a link over to you. When you click that link, it streams from my cloud service. Okay? So now we have just distributed the social network. So if you compare this picture with that picture, we have turned the social network inside out. Okay? So instead of everything deposited into the centralized cloud services, now the cloud services are at the peripheral. And everybody gets to decide where he or she wants to keep the data. So that's a totally different architecture. While I'm at it, I want to show you another picture of where we are heading next. How many people have heard of Internet of Things? Okay? Do you know what Nest is? Okay? Nest is this little, very innovative startup that created these really cute thermostats and smoke alarms. And they just sold to Google for $3.2 billion. Why? Well, with that purchase, Google is now in my bedroom and in my living room. Because these devices tell the server, they are built in the same way. They tell the server what temperature I kept in my house, whether I'm at my house or not at my house, constantly, every minute. Okay? So they really are collecting a lot of data. What does it mean to the industry? Does it mean that you have to buy all your appliances from Google so that they can interoperate with each other? I don't know. Okay, this is just the beginning. And what I have shown you as the open messaging platform here also applies to the Internet of Things. You want your thermostat to talk to you on the phone. Okay, and back up into your own cloud. There is really no way, there is no reason with the technology we have today that we have to build systems like that. Okay? And I think that it is the technologists' fault that we don't have an open system today. Okay? Because the hardware is there, the bandwidth is there, the devices are here. We own these. So this is the big picture that I want you to remember, as you leave this room. This is just one and only one picture I want you to remember. This is what happened when Facebook gets into the APIs, and now they are encroaching, well, they have eaten up messaging when they bought WhatsApp. I don't know if you know, some of you may know that I have come here to give this talk, to give a talk before. I think I've used the slides a few years ago, even before Facebook has any interest in WhatsApp. We saw this coming, okay, a few years ago, because we realized mobile is where the action is. And this is near the end of this conquest, in a sense. And we really need to fight this battle. We have to keep messaging open. If you're able to open the messaging space, build the API on top of it, like what I showed you, allow people to choose where they keep their own cloud service, then you have opened up social networking, okay? So this is the order in which things happen, and this is the order in which we can unzip it. We have mostly computer science students here, I presume. You might find it interesting to note that when we started the research, we were trying to disrupt Facebook, and we came up with some ideas, and the ideas just were too hard. It would never get deployed. So we back off, and we looked at the API, and we back off one more time. We look at messaging. We did this work before WhatsApp even got created. Okay, we kind of realized that we have to start very, very small. There's just messaging, and then you can build up. And so this is, you know, from a research perspective, we actually started here, and we ended up over here. And now, in terms of deployment, we have to go from here back out to this. To solve this overall problem. So what I have talked about just now is the big picture. We've come a long way. After we figured out the design of this architecture, we started a company about a year and a half ago, and I want to tell you about it. And how do you make this real? So far, I've talked about privacy, monopoly. And none of these two things will motivate the end users. You know, I was asking people here, how many of you care? Not enough people care to go to adopt a system that has privacy and that is more open. The only way you can win the hearts of the people is to give them something better. You have to give them a better user experience. And this is why we spent so many years in the research lab working on HCI, human-computer interactions issues. And what we realized is that the way we're going to approach this is to provide an innovative mobile collaboration experience. So I'm going to try to convince you that what we have is more than just privacy and more than just opening up competition. And finally, we're going to talk about go-to-market, making it real. So my research group, my students TJ, Ben, and Ian, formed this company in 2012 after working with these ideas for 4 years. Not that, you know, some of my students didn't join 4 years ago, but I have been working on it for 4 years. In 2013, in June, we joined the StartX incubator program for Stanford people. And I don't have the time to talk about that today. And if people are interested in it, you know, I'm happy to tell you more. It's a very wonderful entrepreneurship and incubator program. And about 1 year and 3 months into the company, we have announced our first partner. Our first partner is ASUS, and at CES in January, they announced that the new Zen phone, which I have one here, has Omlet baked into the phone, into their new line of phones. And in March, 2 months later, the company launched at South by Southwest, and it was a big success because we had the most tweeted app of that event. And we also announced that Stanford is adopting Omlet for Stanford. And then in April, I mean just this month, ASUS Zenfone was released in Taiwan and in Beijing. And so we have come a long way since the beginning of this, this startup work. All right, so what is it? So Omlet is the product, is the name of this product. And it's basically a chat program. It's the messenger system. with the very important principle that it does not monetize data. It lets you keep the data, as we mentioned, that we already attach to various clouds out there. And most importantly, it lets you build your own social apps. What we have opened here is the drawer of apps. There are first-party apps as well as third-party apps. You can write apps in this platform today. It is an open and free platform. You don't have to ask for permission. We will not throw your app out, and it is all free. We don't charge you 30% of your revenues. Okay, so that's the big deal. The app is available today on Google Play Store as well as iPhone Store. It is even in Wandojia in China. So what is it? So it is not just an app, but it's an app platform, as I mentioned. This is a very simple schematics. The data of this Omlet chat is stored on the phone as a database. This database is available to apps. At the simplest level, you can write web apps, and web apps runs directly in the web view on Omlet chat. It can be a native app. It can be a native Android or iOS app, or it can be an OEM app. An OEM app means that it is a trusted app. It comes with the phone, and they have access to the entire database. I don't have to provide protection against third-party apps when it comes to the OEM. So that's the difference. So that's what's on the phone. There is a messaging service out there that we run. And we also have APIs so that you can plug your cloud services in. So what we have shown here is a system of apps and data. And what that means is that it's an operating system. Okay? And we call this an Omlet Social Operating System, a social OS. Just like the browser is the web OS. You have heard of that term, right? The reason is that every computer has a browser, so you can just write one web app, and it runs on all the devices. So the browser becomes kind of like an OS. So what we have is something that runs on iOS and Android, and it is kind of like the social OS. And our goal here, our goal is to have it be installed and run on every single mobile device. So that's the architecture. And what is the underlying technology are these two very basic concepts. It's the identity-based group routing network. Right? People have been doing a lot of work on content-based routing in networks, but none of that ever comes to fruition. And this is what we are bringing in to handle the mobile devices. It is now time to bring in this heavy concept from system research. The second major idea behind this is that it is a distributed semantic file system. What does that mean? All right, let's take a look. Everybody knows what a file system is. We all know what the file system is on the PC. What about the file system on your mobile device? Have you thought about it? Where are the files? What are the files? What are they called? What's the directory? Where are the directories and where are the files? Well, if you look into it, the files may be called img001.jpg, 002, 003. The names are totally meaningless because file names are just not useful anymore on mobile devices. How do you recall any information then? The only way you can recall them, or that you want to recall them, is by who, what, when, where, how, why. That's what we mean by a semantic file system. It's got all the semantic information about how the data are created, shared, where it is, and so forth. So we are bringing this concept of semantic file system to manage the mobile device. And of course, these things are terminal devices. The data has to be distributed. And this is why we have built a distributed semantic file system. It's a hardcore operating systems research area. And this is what we need. As the devices get simpler, the technology has to get more sophisticated. Okay? But today, I'm not going to go into the details of these two topics because there is some harder topic that we have to solve, and that is how do you get users to use the system? So let's talk about the innovation in mobile collaboration. So we mentioned that what we have built are three things. It's a messaging system, an app platform, and a social network. Let's start with messaging. Everybody here uses WhatsApp? How many use WhatsApp? WeChat? All right? Okay? So you know what, what messaging apps do. Let me show you where we are with Omlet. It's hard to show you the app, so let me tell you how we use this app. So here is actually a real-life example. I'm actually sitting here. This guy's sitting in front of me. And I was watching the Stanford football game. Every single time we get a touchdown, this guy here will get up and take off his shirt and bump chest with his friend as a celebration. Right? And he does it every single time. So I have my camera ready. And every time he does it, you know, and we were scoring really well that game, so I took a picture of him. And I took that picture, and within a couple of minutes, my co-founder, Ian, my former student, decided that they're not nude enough. They're not naked enough. So they just took the picture, use a little app over it and make them just slightly more neuter. And he just finishes the app, he closes the app, it goes right into the chat, okay? So now, you see, we're collaborating, okay? I made the first picture and he made the second picture. And it turns out that Ben has a different idea of how he can have more fun with this picture. And so this girl here is a little sticker that he made. And he just stick it on this picture, and then he just decorated it some more. And I suppose you guys are familiar with stickers and so forth. So what we have on our system is that you actually have a very easy way of creating your stickers. You don't have to buy them. You create a sticker, you stick it in there, and your friends can take the sticker and use it on their own pictures and so forth. So now, this is collaboration, you know. The truth is that when we are poking fun or we're having fun like this, if the collaboration is not a piece of cake, nobody will do it, okay? This is the extreme, you know, the requirements of ease of collaboration is extreme when it comes to interactions like this, okay? And at that point, I decided that I should show them what exactly let's see. What exactly happens every single time we get a touchdown. So this is a little GIF. I just recorded it and I put it in there. And all this, oh, by the way, look at the number of likes that I got. Okay, so one of the things we put in our system is that anybody can like something many, many times. And if I look at the statistics of our system, we discovered that there are almost as many likes as there are messages that are sent. So our app is full of love in a sense. You know, we're just trying to please each other with our creativity. So we believe that this is kind of the chat program that a lot of the Americans would enjoy, or a lot of kids, students that are creative would enjoy because they're having fun playing with each other very easily. The reason why we made it very easy is that there are apps. These are not just canned apps that WeChat make for you and so forth. You can make it yourself. So one of the engineers made this app called Animotions. And this is what it does. It's like you can record GIFs of your own expressions. And then instead of using canned GIFs, you now can express yourself like, I love you, or whatever, in your conversation in one click. You just click on this, and then you click yourself. And then you put your own little GIF into the chat to interact with each other. So these are just little things that we are doing by playing up the platform. We have a lot more do-it-yourself features than most chat apps. But that's really not the strength of this app. This is just something that we think are more than competitive. Then let's talk about the second feature, is that most of the time when we look at a chat program, you think of it as just exchanging temporary information, like the football picture. But when it comes to things like weddings, you share them via Facebook. And what we want to do is to show you that this mobile device is better for sharing photos, even like Facebook, even like weddings, than Facebook. So let's take a look at this. So how many people here have experienced this before? So somebody gives you a camera, and then you take a picture, and then they say, could you please take more pictures of me? And then there are just 4 cameras of them, one same pose. Why? So if Facebook is so good, why are people still doing this? And that is because people don't want to take the time uploading and downloading. Okay? So what we can do today is that I want to take a picture here with you and share it with you right away. So if I use my chat program, I go here, I can create a chat on the spot. Let's see if I have enough, if it knows where I am. I'm a little bit far from open space. So you can download the app and use this with me. Has anybody downloaded the app? If you go, yeah? And if you go to so I have broadcasted the chat, I think, on location. If you go to that page, you will find that Monica's chat is in there. And if you click on it, then you can take a picture of me and share the picture with me. But I can also do that. I can take a picture. I can take a picture here and share it with the people here, I think. Let's see. So this is an example of something that you can do because you have mobile devices, and we don't have to friend each other ahead of time. So let me just walk through it for people who may not have the app yet, is that you can create a chat and share it on the spot. So for example, we did that with Ben's wedding, okay? And so I took a picture, and a couple of more people took a picture, and before long, we have this beautiful photo album that is created together by everybody, okay? It is just not my picture of Ben and your picture of Ben. It is our picture together. And so this is kind of a collaborative photo album that sits on your phone. You don't have to upload, you don't have to download, and you just have to join and let other people take the pictures, and you have this photo album. Remember I told you that what we have is a semantic file system? Let me just use a simple example to illustrate the power of such a system. Suppose I run into Kate's friend, and I said, Kate got married, and I want to show you the pictures, but I don't know where the pictures are anymore. However, I remember her name. I click her name. Then I see the list of events that I've shared with her. And from the event, I pick the wedding, and from the wedding, I pick the chat, and then I go and I will pick the photo albums. So this is now how I can recall information on my mobile device easily. Okay. So what is interesting is that I have been using this device for a while, and if you look at my app, I have my contacts list just goes on and on and on and on. Okay. So if you join me today, you're on my list, and then 10 years later, for example, I run into you in a conference, and then you join, and then I look and I say, oh, I've met you before, 10 years before. How did I meet you? Oh, because I was giving a talk at HKUST, and you are in the audience. Okay? And this is what it means for the future. When the mobile device is an extension of your memory, I will never forget a face as a result of this. All right. So what we have created is a photo album of events. And this photo album is now much more, these photo albums have people in it, have photos in it. I know exactly when, where, and what. And this album is a lot more attractive than my camera roll. So this is the ASUS phone, and it has a beautiful gallery as a result of this. And the social function on this phone belongs to the phone. It's not belonging to Facebook or any other third party. So that's how we share. So for example, we used it at a conference, and people in the room were chatting about the presentations right on the spot. We have also used it in a nightclub. This is very interesting. Gabriel and Justin had a performance at South by Southwest. They created a chat. They invited people at the nightclub to join, and they were sharing photos. They were sharing song requests, and they were responding to whether they liked the songs or not on the spot. So this is another example of interaction that you can have. So what I have talked about is how we share data. Let's talk about the app platform. This is the most interesting part of the system. So, for example, if you downloaded the app, you will find that there is a little app called Snap. What it does is that it will take a picture, it will show it for 5 seconds or less, and it would delete the picture. Have you heard of that before? Snapchat. That is Snapchat. You guys used it? Not too many, huh? But you know what? Snapchat is worth $4 billion. What does that say? What it says is that we have a terribly inefficient system. That for me to create a little feature like this, to get it to be used is worth $4 billion. This little feature was created in our system by a high school student in 2 days. Okay? And if every single platform is using an open system like this, then there is no reason for this to be $4 billion. And as a matter of fact, what it is saying is that it is too difficult these days to create anything social. And by the way, I don't expect the Snap program to become popular. Why? Because it is no longer new. It's not innovative. But I know that there are many, many more high school students who can come up with many, many other ideas, and one out of those 100 ideas would be better than this one. But what we didn't have before is a platform for people to create and spread in, toys or tools like this. So here's just a couple of examples to just give you some ideas of what you can do. So one of the apps on here is a little poll. I don't know you, but a lot of times our group will want to go to lunch and we cannot decide where to go. So we can just say, look, where would you like to go? Chipotle, In-N-Out, and so forth. You put it out and then people vote, and then you create a poll and the answer comes out and everybody sees what it is. There is no server involved in this. It is just a little HTML5 page that you can write in 1 day or 2. You heard, there are apps, there are companies that have apps called like Evite that helps you maintain invitation lists. You don't need a company to do that. It is a 1 day's worth of programming effort, okay? So you can build a lot of things that you couldn't before. Here's another interesting example, 2048. How many people have played that game? How many people have gotten 2048? Woo! How many people have gotten 4096? It's possible. We have seen people do 4K. But anyway, so one of our employees in our company, she's not even technical. She loves this game. And she said, I want to put this game on our app platform, and I want to be able to share the high score. So one of our engineers helped her a little bit, and she put it on our app, and now you can share the score with your friends. So in other words, anybody here can just do a little bit of programming, and you can improve this app with new features. And we believe that with this open system, this chat app can have many more features than any other apps out there because of its properties. I actually have tried it out. We have a summer intern program in 2012. We have 7 high school students, 2 freshmen, using a platform that is even less mature than the one we have. In 6 weeks, they wrote 5 multi-party games because they don't have to write any server code. They taught themselves HTML5 and JavaScript, okay? And then they were writing these games. So here are just some examples. Let me bring up the last one. That was my favorite. It's the nose game. So you know what the nose game is? So I say, who wants to go buy coffee? You put your finger on your nose, and the last one has to go buy coffee. Okay? So how do you write that game? what the game does is that it sends a nose over on the chat app. Everybody has to touch the nose. And the last person who touches the nose buys coffee. Okay? What if you don't have a platform like this? Can you imagine writing an iPhone app for the nose game? So I first of all have to call you. I am going to play the nose game with you. Could you please go download that game, all of you? Okay, you got it now? I'm going to play it. You know, it's like, you can't do that. It has to be a lot more spontaneous. So here's an example of a little app, so tiny little app that cannot be built reasonably, that can get users without a platform that is as dynamic as this. Okay. So here's another app that I think you guys might want to give it a try, and that is the Git chat. We use GitHub, and what it does is that it takes the commits that you send to the Git server and put it into the chat. So the software engineering group gets to see what everybody checks in real time, and you know, you see what their check-ins are and the comments, and you can comment back. Okay, this changes the dynamics of the software engineering team. Why? First of all, people put a lot more comments in because they now know that people are reading it. And if you stayed up late at night, you checked something at 3 a.m., you went to bed, the next morning everybody says, I like it, and you get all these hearts for doing this work that everybody wants done. And so, you know, you don't have to just heart people's lunches and breakfasts and so forth. Now you can actually use social encouragement for work. And I think that this is an example of something that you can do easily. There is a company that has a product with this. You know, every little example that I gave were products. And this is an app that was done by an engineer, 2 days. It's open source. It's out there. It is free. Go ahead and use it. Try it and let me know. And what I'm hoping is that after you try it, you may want to write a little app for yourself and your friends, and then just put it open source and spread it. So here's another example. This is a cool one. We have a friend that has an app. It's not out yet, so let me just say that it makes music. And it is, so what they have done is they spent all the time building this app to make, it makes beautiful music. You cannot screw up, okay? Even, I tried very hard and it still sounds good. So, but it is a single person app. But of course, if I make a song, I want my friends to hear it. So what they did is that they worked with us. In one afternoon, with 2 lines of code, they have made their app social. So for example, Anne made a song. This song is then sent through Omlet into Bob's phone. When Bob sees this message, he clicks on it. The first thing it does is that it goes and downloads this music app. This is very important. To help apps spread through friends is the #1 most important things we do, okay? So Bob downloads the app, and when Bob clicks the message again, Anne's song plays on Bob's phone, on Bob's iPad, okay? Now and what it means is that now they have made their app social without doing more than 1 afternoon's worth of work. If they didn't work with us, what that means is they have to stand up a server, they have to figure out what the friends are, get the social graph, use Facebook Connect, and so forth, in order for people to share. But in this case, quickly, all the data are shared, and if you care about privacy, you notice that this music app doesn't know anything about your friends. You are enjoying the social interactions without worrying about privacy. So that's another thing that we do for people. And on the app afterwards, you can see all the songs that your friends shared with you. Okay? So you don't actually have to go through the chat app all the time. Now they have made an app that is social in very little bit of time. And this is why we think that this platform will take off, because we are enabling all the developers to create social apps really easily. So that's the app platform. Now, I want to talk about the most important thing about a company, and that's go-to-market. Have you guys heard of this term before? So this is a term I learned when I started the second company. I have this wonderful idea. Actually, I went to see John Hennessy, the president, and also my mentor at Stanford. And I said, look, I have this idea. And then he says, what's your go-to-market? I said, what's that? Go-to-market means how do you introduce it to the market? Nobody has heard about you, all right? You can't just say, this is wonderful. Everybody should use it. And if everybody uses it, then it will be wonderful, okay? That doesn't work. You have to start. And that's what it means to go to market. Okay, it's a very important term for entrepreneurs that I learned the hard way. Okay, so what we have done is that we launched our app in March. It turns out that we got a little lucky. We launched it at South by Southwest. It's a very major party event. Like hundreds of thousands of people go to Austin. It turns out that this year the theme was privacy. They have Snowden and Assange speak remotely at that event. So privacy became the top topic. And anybody talking about privacy at that event, when they talk about apps, they talk about Omlet. Okay? So we got a lot of publicity. So what it shows is that they said Lady Gaga beat Grumpy Cat, Omlet beat Secret App at South by. And that's number 1, number 2, and number 3. So we got a lot of press. So this is the first thing we want to do is that we are changing, we're trying to change the world. We need to tell the world about it. So, and then we talked to the press. We got a lot of press from TechCrunch, Stanford also gave us a press release. VentureBeat, we were mentioned in Time, New York Times. We have a major article on Forbes, major article on Spiegel Online, which is the most, that was the big German magazine. And a lot of people are actually interested in an alternative to Facebook. This is what we found out. At least the press is. And besides going to the press, we are taking 2 routes. One is to go through universities. And Stanford has adopted Omlet in that the registrar is recommending the students use Omlet. And Stanford has an arrangement with Box. So Box is a cloud service, and they have made 25 gigabytes freely available for every Stanford member. And this partnership is not just a Stanford partnership. There are 70 plus other universities who already have signed up with Box. And this is an arrangement through Internet 2 Net Plus initiative. There are about 200 universities in that initiative, in that consortium. So potentially, it is possible for us to go in through schools. And what the registrar likes here is to say that they give the storage to the individuals. It is no longer just backup storage. You can use this storage for keeping social data. So you don't have to leave it all on Facebook. Now you can just leave it and keep it in these personal repositories or group repositories or dorm repositories. So that's a school route. The second route that we are taking is to go through the OEMs. As I mentioned before, we are a social OS. We are, I believe, what Android should be next. It's an extension of Android because social is not a feature, but an attribute. And so we have been approaching OEMs, and ASUS is the first OEM to have announced and launched a product. And this is the chairman speaking at CES, talking about how Omlet is an open messaging system that they have embraced. And we are working with other OEMs, and and that's ongoing. So when we said go to market, we have 3 goals. The first is the POMI campaign. We want to tell everybody about the danger of centralized, proprietary systems, and get a lot of people to be aware that there are actually alternatives. The second one is to go through universities. And one of my hypotheses is that computer science students may be a good place to start because we have a brand new network. There are not a lot of students in it yet, but at the same time, it is a programming platform and it has a lot of room for creativity. When Facebook first got started, the first Facebook apps got very, very popular. And then soon after that, there were too many Facebook apps to compete. So this is the beginning of a new paradigm and a new social network. And we thought that students might be very interested in playing with these ideas, coming out with something that people, that can be used by a lot of people out there. So this is why I'm very keen on talking to various students. I've been to various schools on this trip. This is my 5th school. And the third thing is that we want to also have it be distributed on Android devices. And because people are buying devices so quickly, this can be very quick. I mean, we are hoping that this will take just a small number of years. So I want to show you this picture just to ground this with the reality we see today. There are 3 major vertical closed systems today. We talked about Facebook. WeChat is another one. Facebook started out as a social network. WeChat started out as a messaging. They own the entire app API, and now they also have a cloud. And another vertical system is Apple. They have iMessage, they have iCloud, and they have, of course, their APIs that are only available on the iPhones. And what we are doing here is to create an open system where Omlet is a messaging bus that does not monetize users' data. Our first target are the Android devices. We were just putting some examples of names up there, and also bringing the clouds with us to create the system. So what we have here is a research. It started out as research in the university. We started a company. The company is very different. It's a neutral third-party company. It does not belong to Google, Apple, Facebook, WeChat, or any of these companies. Because we are neutral, we have an ability to talk to many different partners. All the different OEMs can be working together through a neutral third party. All the cloud services can be working together with an open standard, bringing in the app creators as well as the communities. And we really want to create a new ecosystem that is based on universal messaging that does not monetize people's data. So that's the message that I want to bring to this audience. And thank you.
So we have time for questions and comments.
Yeah.
I want to ask 2 questions. I want to begin with a short technical question.
Sure.
Is that when we suppose we introduce the Omlet, and suppose the 2 of us we need to authenticate each other, and then we authenticate through your identity-based server, right? Is there any possibility that we cannot authenticate through, but rather using our own server?
So right now, you don't have that choice. We provide a lot of, there's a lot of software involved, okay? And we haven't got to the point where we are mature enough to federate the service. I would like to, but it is moving way too fast for that to happen, nor do I have a lot of people calling me that they want to create their own system. So for example, we are providing notification systems. And we're using Google, we're using Baidu Cloud, we're using Apple, and so forth. So there's a lot of code that is still being developed.
You have another question?
Actually, I was in the audience of the presentation when you came to the year 2001.
Yeah.
2011. Well, I'm glad that you will have been making progress.
Thank you.
And I really glad that because I listened to the talk last time, that when the field of WhatsApp came, that they were acquired by Facebook for billions of dollars. I understand the risk of that. I mean, it's the same thing that WhatsApp is not monetizing our data. It's just pass through our apps, right? But they are selling for billions of dollars because they have our requirements.
Yes.
So,
They sell it to...
very good funds to us with this session, but we don't mind.
Of course I don't mind. I love to be able to answer your question.
Doing the same as what WhatsApp is doing. What stop you from, down the road, that you have a lot of social graph, that you can sell the same apps. What's our connection?
Well, you already are being sold. Okay, let me try it this way. They sold to Facebook, and the value, and of course, Facebook is an advertising company, and they promise to own your data. The company that we are creating, we promise not to look at your data. It is our business not to look at your data. And the minute we violate that trust, game is over. Okay? And we are creating an open system in such a way that we have a lot of partners that are not just individuals that are counting on this business model. Okay? And we believe that this will be a business model that makes us a lot of money. Okay? I believe in making money as a company. And something like this will enable all kinds of commerce that were not available before. So for example, any health-related interactions, there are a lot of there's need for social for everything, such as doctor and patients. It is not something that I can choose now to sell the data to somewhere else. I provide a different premise, I attract a different groups of people, and I have to maintain that because of the apps that I started to build as a result of this. It is just a totally different business.
So 3 years ago, many audiences asked you, how are you going to make money?
Yes.
What is your answer now?
I have many ways to make money.
Let me point out one big difference between what we did last time and this time, since some of you still remember. We were doing Musubi. The Musubi is an end-to-end encrypted system. This one isn't. The reason that we decided not to do end-to-end encryption is that the end user experience suffers for those who don't care for end-to-end encryption. So you get a message that says that you got some message from somebody I don't know, and I don't know what the content is. You click on it, especially on the iPhone, you wait and wait and wait, and then it decrypts it, and then it shows you something kind of pointless, okay? So we decided not to stick to end-to-end encryption because our most important goal is to distribute the data, give the data back to their rightful owners. Okay. And if we stick to this hardcore encrypted end-to-end encryption, we don't think we will ever take off. So I want to tell this audience that. So we have done away with that completely, and it's a compromise. How do we make money? There are many, many ways. So the basic idea is that if this is a system that is being used, you can provide a lot of services on which you can make money. I'll give you 2 examples. One is that I can sell you stickers. And for some reason, Line made $100 million a quarter just selling stickers, virtual goods, and so forth. If I have the eyeball, I can sell stickers, and it is not hurting anybody. Maybe a few people's wallets. But they chose to do that. The second one is, and the example is the value-added services, is that I can make recommendations. So for example, if you look at the browser, the Firefox browser, it makes a lot of money every year from Google because Google pays them to be the default search engine of that app, of that browser. And it's hundreds of millions of dollars. So in our case, one of the services that we want people to have is a cloud service. There's a lot of competition for people's cloud service today. And just by partnering with those guys, they will give us some money for driving business to their account. So that's just a second example. And once we start helping people move data for their various apps and so forth, then there are just more and more value-added services. One thing I want to point out is that the service is much more secure than email and SMS. You cannot spoof it because we have verified identities, and for companies, we have certificates. And this will enable a different kind of commerce that you couldn't do before. So once you get into that, there is just more and more value-added services for companies. There is a lot of, I mean, from the responses that we have seen, there are just a lot of people who have applications for what we're talking about. Just the Internet of Things is yet another example of uses. We just need a peer-to-peer messaging system. Does that answer your question this time? Thank you. Yeah.
You used the word verified identity.
Yes.
So that was actually a follow-up to that question. I'm guessing that you can transfer identities between devices. At one point you were implying that the identity was tied to the device. And then later on, what you said, so that you could transfer it. You could use the identity on both devices.
Yes.
So do you have a server in the back that's authenticating identities? That's a piece of information that you're keeping? Is there anything with both?
So let's see. So what we're doing is just like what email clients do. You pick up a piece of software and you say, I have these accounts. And when you have information according to these accounts, you send it to me because this device is tied to that account.
So any chat will have to go to the authentication to your server for authentication.
It's just that I send you a piece of email and then you prove that you have that.
And everything else is not in your server.
I actually have a question for the audience. I'm just wondering if there are people interested in this platform for both a user or a developer. Yeah? So I want to see if I can, I'm trying to kind of create a virtual network or virtual community, and I'm just going to send around some papers, and if you can just sign your name, put your name down, then we can contact you. I see a lot of people have to leave, so I just want to pass that around. Yeah, just name and email address and so forth. And you just put them down, just blank pieces of paper. Here, I have one pen. People don't have pens anymore. Well, you can download the app and you can join me. And I'm wondering if I can have 2 students to volunteer to help me pick up the information, coordinate, and maybe I can call you when I need help so that you can maybe, you know, an example is that at some point we may want to run a hackathon and maybe you can connect me to some local people and so forth.
Run a hackathon this week.
I know, but so I'm just wondering if there are a couple of students who would volunteer to help. I have T-shirts. I have 2 T-shirts here. Yes, anybody?
Any volunteers?
No.
To collect the
They're very cute T-shirts. Okay, thank you. I'll just give up one then. So, are there other questions? Is that medium? Yeah. Medium. What's your name? Can you put a star over it?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
If you have any questions, you can always stay behind and ask the speaker. So thank you for coming today.
I'll hand out some stickers.